I am sitting in a hot tub filled to the brim with solid sand. This is one of the coolest things ever. If you take a tub of sand like this, and then add air in just the right way, it basically becomes a liquefied soup. In science, this is known as a fluidized bed. It's used in industrial applications such as powder coat painting or in grain silos to make sure that the grain flows smoothly to the outlet. With air on, the top surface is nearly frictionless. It's like an air hockey table. And then when you cut off the air, it freezes everything exactly where it's at. So today I'm going to show you how to make a simple version like this yourself, and then because I became curious what it would feel like to be fully immersed in something like this, we made a hot tub size version. As you can see from this 60-year-old video from the Royal Institute of Science, this demo isn't exactly new. I've wanted to build one for a long time, but you can find literally no information online on how to make one like that. So I started combing through a bunch of patent drawings for massive industrial-sized fluid beds, and I noticed that instead of one big inlet, they all had a bunch of small holes to deliver the air. So starting with that in mind, it still took us 25 failed versions before we arrived at this design. As you can see, it's just a bunch of half-inch PVC pipes arranged sort of in a ladder. But the key is to drill two 1mm holes 90 degrees apart from each other, and then do a bunch of those spaced 25mm apart. Then you glue all the pipes together and just make sure you orient the holes down so that will keep the sand from getting in. And then you just seal off the container with some hot glue. And then fill your container with either fine sand, or we found glass beads worked really well. And you could power it with a small air compressor like this, or you could just rent a large nitrogen container like this for about 30 bucks, and that'll give you 10 minutes of runtime. As usual, I will put a link to all of the parts I used in the build in the video description. So my buddy Ken had an old broken spa in his backyard, which we decided to put to good use. It just stops and you're like locked in place. It's like a weighted blanket on every surface of your body. Ah! Now that it was tested and ready, in my ongoing quest to be the favorite uncle, I decided to surprise my nephews with it.
Whoa, whoa.
But before we get to swimming in sand, let's talk about the science behind a fluidized bed. And where we don't, click away if you think science is boring. If you're new here, you should know that my approach to science is similar to velociraptor hunting patterns. I try to bring people in with a catchy thumbnail or a cool thing to see, and then when they least expect it...
Clever girl.
Admittedly, the analogy breaks down a little at the end, but if you promise to hang with me for the next 2 minutes, I promise to try and walk the delicate line between trying to make things simple to understand without oversimplifying or being condescending. Fluidization is just when you have enough upward air so that the force of the air pushing on each grain of sand is equal to the downward force of gravity or weight. And when that happens,